Good evening, all. Nice to see folks here. Can we do the roll call, please?
Councilmember Larson,
I'm here.
Councilmember Cassidy,
Here.
Councilmember Dan Hahn. Let the record reflect that Councilmember Hahn is not present. Councilmember Cox. Present. Councilmember Julia Stubble. Let the record reflect that Councilmember Stubble is not present. Councilmember Josh Hahn.
Yes.
Mayor Wyatt.
Also present.
You barely have a quorum.
Close works. So nice to have other folks here. Just a reminder for folks who haven't been in here, please make sure cell phones are on silence. And if you need to have any conversations, please step outside and kind of move away from the door. There's weird acoustics and sound travels into the room. So, but nice to have folks here joining us. Thank you. Next up, we need to approve the agenda. Can I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Larson, seconded by Councilmember Cox. I don't believe there's any changes that need to be made, so we'll go straight to call for the question. Councilmember Hahn.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Great, that passes. Next up is communication from the floor, basically our public comment. So if you would like to, please approach the microphone and state your full name for the record. This meeting and comments are electronically recorded, and all comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Anyone up for public comment? Well, that's nice and easy. Okay, move on to mayor and council updates. John, Councilmember Larson, we'll start with you.
I don't have anything tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Cassidy.
Same, no meetings.
I also don't have any updates, Mayor.
Whoa.
Well, didn't we just have a meeting last week?
No,
Yeah.
it has not been long. True.
Yeah.
I have nothing as well, Mayor.
Okay, well, I will add a few. So, yeah, so last week I was at down in Salt Lake for the National League of Cities Conference, which was really insightful. Wonderful networking opportunities, especially 3,500 plus city officials, elected and otherwise. So great conversations, overhearing folks and like, hey, I've got an idea for that. So it was really nice to be there. Turns out some of our concerns are widespread. Pretty much everyone is saying we don't have enough money for infrastructure and road improvements. Housing is an issue, challenges with employee retention, et cetera. So lots of good workshops though. And again, believe we will be able to become members officially on January 1st. And there's lots of great learning modules online that we can attend and be part of. So I look forward to that happening for that. Something else that's come up, and I bring it up for us, is the role of independent contractors is changing substantially as federal laws have changed for that. And part of why I bring that up is as we have our independent contractor contracts needing to be renewed or updated, we're going to see substantive changes, and whether or not you can actually maintain someone as an independent contractor is actually basically the legal and best approach to do. And so one that's come up for us is our cleaning contract for City Hall and the police department. I have driven our attorney absolutely nuts with like, but can't we do this? And like, no, you cannot do that. So in terms of, I'm sure of y'all, having kids, like trying to come up with the common agreement about what cleaning their room means is a challenge. So similarly, like what does it mean to clean a building? It's hard to have that. And with an independent contract, you can't specify the outcomes, as bizarre as that is. So we will likely move to having a part-time unbenefited position for cleaning City Hall, both sides of the building, and also Public Works. And we think we can do that pretty comparable to what the independent contract is right now. So, but just so you know, and as other ones come up, we will likely be seeing changes to that.
Does that also include the community center?
They're separate contracts. So, but we do have a number of independent contractor contracts that we should be taking a
All
look
of
at.
those would be,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So interesting. Want to make a reminder to look at the Planning Commission suggestions for short-term rentals. If you're like me, that's starting to fade to the background, but we should keep talking to our constituents about that. And then likewise, we'll continue to look at Title II. We don't have a date set for the next open house, but we will come up with one fairly shortly, recognizing the holidays are happening. That might make it a little tough.
Mayor,
So,
that information from the Planning Commission, is that on our Google Drive?
we got a handout Regine, do you have the electronic copy that you could forward to us?
Yeah, I should be able to go into an agenda packet and just get it right into your emails. So
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Great. All right. So with that, we'll move to staff reports. Starting with interim chief.
I think I'll have enough mic time on the next agenda item.
Okay, great. Hunter, thanks for filling in for Lance.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Mayor and Council. You guys have probably noticed Lincoln Street is open end to end at this point now. It is still in a winter shutdown mode. They're still working on concrete and trying to get some concrete tied in, but the asphalt batch plants are shut down for the season too. So it's passable for now. We're able to blade it and try to keep it clear from snow. The contractor's working on barricading off parking lots, has spoken with business owners in that area to make sure that access to and from their businesses will work for the winter time until they get started again in the spring. I can answer any questions as best as I can with that project. Same with High Country. We are finished up with, we're working on the punch list for the tank and pump station project with them still too, and trying to get that one to the finish line as well. Very close. The last big piece is a warranty item on a part that got installed and then got sent back in. And it's one of those long lead time, several week out parts. That's a big valve that goes in, it's getting replaced under warranty. You guys probably noticed the streets crews, parks crews, water department has been massively trying to spread Christmas spirit by getting lights lit or trees with lights on them and garland on poles and trees in Centennial Park going. So massive effort from a lot of community members trying to get that up and going to make that light up lantern look good too. Yeah, I'll off the top of my head. Anything else I can answer questions for?
Great. Any questions for Hunter? Yep. Really psyched about Lincoln Street and psyched we'll have everything set for light up lander. So, yep. Regine.
Thank you. We did have the bid opening for the Jefferson Street extension into Paposia River Park. We got 2 qualified bidders, and at your next council meeting, we'll be ready to award that contract starting next spring and finishing next summer. So that's good that we got more than one bidder. So,
Yeah.
the other thing is we have a couple leases that are expiring in the next quarter, and one being the senior center. We'd like to look at that in light of their new taxing district and see what we can do to preserve some of that endowment funds. So that will be coming up before you guys in the next month or so. And then LOTRA, we made a 1-year extension for LOTRA in order to put out that request for proposals. That request for proposals was unsuccessful, so we need to renegotiate the LOTRA contract. So those will be on our plate in the next month or so.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Okay. Shari.
I don't have anything tonight.
Adam, are you going to surprise us?
Nope, got nothing.
And Rochelle.
I forwarded an email to all of you concerning the WAM Winter Conference. It will be in February. Please take a look at it and let me know if you think you'd like to attend, and I can help facilitate your registration and hotel reservations. Kevin continues to work on the liquor license renewal process. We received numerous correction memo requests from the state already on a number of them. They are really looking at them with a fine-tooth comb. So he continues to work around getting everything needed for that process.
Great. As a reminder, this year for WAM, the County Commission Association is going to meet at the same time in hopes that having both major bodies provides a stronger presence. So should be an interesting one. If you can make it, that would be awesome.
Is that in Cheyenne or?
In
where?
Cheyenne, yep. And I think it's intended to be more at the start before the legislators really get wrapped up in stuff. So hopefully a little more time to interact with them. So, all right, new business. Turn it over to interim chief.
I don't feel like it's appropriate to sit down, sorry. So as vocal as I've been lately about mental health and wellness and the agency moving forward and taking care of our people, I also feel like one of the most crucial things that we can do is recognize our staff when they do something exemplary. They do a lot of great things. They do a lot of great things every day, but every once in a while, we're blessed with someone that does something completely above and beyond. To me, it's extremely important, one, that they're recognized, two, that they're recognized in front of all of you so you can see and they can feel recognized and understood by you. So tonight's is for Sergeant Trent Moss. The details of what it was is November 14th, Sergeant Moss took a call for 3 juvenile children that did not get home from school. They were supposed to be home by 1. It was upwards of 4 o'clock. Nobody had heard from the children. The custodial father called concerned that his children were missing. Sergeant Moss did a substantial amount of work on the back end, did a lot of research, did a lot of investigation. One of the things that I'm probably most proud of him for is in my history in law enforcement, agencies are usually pretty quick. When things move out of our jurisdiction, we just do our part and let them go. That did not happen today. On this day, Sergeant Moss took the time to do the research, get paperwork. One of the juveniles had very severe medical diabetic issues. The diabetes medicine was at home. The medicine was not there. Sergeant Moss did a lot of work, wrote search warrants, sent teletypes, reached out to outside agencies, was led with a pretty hot tip. The children were kidnapped by their non-custodial parents and taken to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. In Sergeant Moss's work, he was able to reach out to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Wyoming Highway Patrol, South Dakota Highway Patrol, ultimately finding the mother. The mother was arrested and charged with 6 felonies. The 3 children were taken into protective custody, but not till after the diabetic child was seen by medical professionals at a hospital. The amount of work that he did and put into this potentially saved these children's lives. They're involved now with DFS. They're involved in the state's custody and they will be taken care of. And to me, that is the act of exemplary police work. And I'm very proud of him for doing that.
That's tremendous. You totally make us proud. And following up with that, I have a letter of commendation for exemplary work for Sergeant Moss. I'll read it here and then come down and present to you. I would stand down and just speak loudly, but microphone is better. The letter of commendation for exemplary work. I'm pleased to formally commend you for your exemplary performance and unwavering dedication to duty. Your professionalism, leadership, and commitment to excellence have significantly contributed to the success of this department and the safety of our community. Recently, your actions on November 14th, 2025 demonstrated exceptional judgment, initiative, and composure. Your thoroughness and attention to detail ensured a successful outcome, reflecting great credit upon yourself and the Lander Police Department. Additionally, your positive attitude and consistent support of your team set a standard for others to follow. Your conduct exemplifies the highest ideals of law enforcement service. It is with sincere appreciation that I recognize your outstanding contributions and commend you for a job exceptionally well done. Thank you for your continued dedication and service. Respectfully, Kelly Waugh, Interim Chief of Police. And likewise, thank you. That is absolutely phenomenal what you've done. You make us proud. Let's likewise, so nice to see others from the department here and supporting. It's one thing I really appreciate, the level of support folks give each other. Thank you for being here. Yep, y'all are awesome. All right, we'll move on to our old business. So first up is approve the third and final reading of ordinance 2025-12, granting a franchise to Northern Arapaho Tribal Industries, Inc., DBA Wind River Internet, on behalf of itself and its affiliates to operate and maintain the telecommunication systems in the city of Lander, Wyoming. Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cox with a second by Councilmember Cassidy. third reading. I don't anticipate there's questions. So Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
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 Great, that passes. Another third reading, approve third and final reading of ordinance 2025-14, amending section 710-1 through 710-6, tobacco products age requirements within the city of Lander. Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved?
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cox and seconded by Councilmember Josh Hahn. Call for the question, Councilmember Hahn.
Yes.
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 Wonderful, and that passes. Next up is the second reading of ordinance 2025-16, an ordinance repealing Title III, adoption and enforcement of uniform codes and standards for mobile and modular buildings, and enacting Title III, buildings and construction of the Lander Municipal Code. Can I get a motion and second for that one?
So
Move to
moved.
approve.
Oh. Second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Larson, seconded by Councilmember Cox. Any question, discussion on this? Okay, seeing none. Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
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 Okay, and that passes. Moving on to new business. Approve and authorize the mayor to sign the memorandum of understanding by and between the Cemetery Ditch Company and the city of Lander. Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
By Councilmember Cox, seconded by Councilmember Cassidy, and Regine, we'll turn it over to you to fill us in.
Thank you, Mayor. This is housekeeping that we have been doing every 2 years. Because Worthen Meadows is on Forest Service land, we have a special use permit with them. And if we don't have this water exchange agreement with an irrigation company, they charge us $10,000 a year. So our special use lease is like a 40-year lease, and we sign this every year with Cemetery every 2 years. So we're trying to enact this for a longer period of term, but it is due in December. So it's something that we're going to go ahead and get renewable up through the whole Forest Service lease if approved tonight. I don't recall that. I think it's 2042 that the lease goes to right now.
So one of the things we noted was that given the $10,000 price tag and that it's such a infrequent renewal, having something more permanent is definitely a savings. Councilmember Cassidy? do you
Who
have-
charges these 10,000? The Forest
The
Service?
Forest Service, yeah.
I just had one question about something in it. It's on, there's added page numbers in the entire item, but I think it's page 38. Mutual understandings and agreements. Subparagraph D, costs and expenses. This is Lander shall bill all associated costs of implementing and operating the exchange. Including but not limited to monitoring, reporting, infrastructure improvements. Where do those infrastructure improvements, is that exclusively for the reservoir?
It is.
Because
So
the way
we
that-
release from the reservoir, and you can't divide water molecules, but we always laugh about the blue and the red molecules. But we release it out of Worthen, and then it ends up going to our cemetery. So that's how we exchange the water. If it was strictly municipal water, that's where the $10,000 charge would come in. But where we're using it for irrigation purposes within city lands, we can bypass that fee.
Okay, so there's no infrastructure.
No, it'd be our regular maintenance that we
Yeah.
would do on Worthen.
No infrastructure within the ditch system itself. The cemetery ditch manages and controls. It's only infrastructure within the reservoir.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, call for the question. Councilman Hahn?
Yes.
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 Great, that passes. Next up is approve resolution 1374, creating the job description for a part-time code enforcement officer. I get a motion in a second.
Move to approve Resolution 1374, creating the job description for a part-time code enforcement officer.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cox and seconded by Councilmember Josh Hahn. Turn that over to interim chief for conversation and explanation.
So a small foundation is, this changes nothing about the police department budget. I'm repurposing somebody that we already have on board. Chief Peters hired a part-time assistant to the administrative assistant to help with those duties. They've been redefined and there's no longer a need for a part-time to the administrative assistant. We have been inundated with code enforcement, abandoned vehicles, trailers, garbages, and it's more than Sean can keep up with on his own. Chuck Carr and I had a conversation and he agreed to stay on board and was more than happy to move over to a part-time code enforcement. So he's helping Sean with the tagging and keeping track of all those things. So changes, the only thing that changes is I just repurpose Chuck to somewhere where he's more beneficial to us.
And to the city as well.
Yeah.
So, any questions? Okay, call for the question. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
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 That also passes. Item C, approve and authorize the mayor to sign health equity premium only plan application for IRC section 125, compliance services and the annual amount of $225. Motion in a second, please.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Larson with a second by Councilmember Cox, and Rochelle, we'll turn this over to you.
And they for us for $225 a year. They send us a questionnaire, we fill it out, and then you do all the appropriate rate.
Any
Okay.
que-
What did you say was it initially? What kind of?
So they ask a bunch of questions about, do you have any corporate officers? And if you do, what do they pay for health insurance premiums? What do your janitorial staff pay for health insurance premiums? And so I believe the intent is that the federal government is making sure that the organization isn't discriminating on who's paying what percentage of their health insurance plans. But it's a requirement that we do it because the city doesn't pay 100% of the employees' health insurance premium.
Any other questions? Okay, call for the question.
Yes.
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 That likewise passes. Last voting item of the night, approve resolution 1375, adopting the November 2025 update of the City of Lander supplements to the Wyoming Public Works standard specifications and details. And a motion in a second would be lovely.
Move to approve resolution 1375.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cox with a second by Councilmember Cassidy. Hunter, we'll put you on, fill us in.
Sure. So the most recent standards for public works in the state of Wyoming is a 2015 version that lives out there, and that's what YDOT uses and every other municipality uses. Obviously, within 10 years, a lot of technologies have changed up till then. So we've kind of kept up on what those public works standards look like, and this is the most current version of what we found that works for the city of Lander for street cuts to valve installs to whatever happens within Lander based on a lot of the projects we've been doing. It's been prepared by Strike Engineering. So it's kind of been gone through with a fine tooth comb to give us the teeth to be able to hold a standard of 2025 standards versus antiquated 2015 standards.
Great, awesome. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
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 Some. So move to adjourn our special session and then we'll move into work session.
I move to adjourn our special meeting.
Okay, and second?
Second.
So moved by Councilmember Cox, seconded by Councilmember Josh Hahn, to adjourn our special meeting. Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
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 And that passes, not surprisingly. All right, we'll move into our work session, which we have the folks from Juvenile Justice. So come on up. Probably the best place for you is up in the seats up front, so you can have the microphone. thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Yep, turn on the little speaker so you get the, hot mic.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm Hattie. I am the Assistant Director for Juvenile Justice Services of Fremont County, formerly known as Youth Services. I have Sierra Hernandez with me this evening. I'll let her introduce herself.
Good evening, I'm Sierra Hernandez. I am the Lander Juvenile Diversion Officer.
Good evening, everybody. So we just wanted to give you guys an update. Since July, we have received 24 citations in our Lander office that we have processed. And then we kind of broke those down for you guys in terms of types of citations. And then one thing that has been coming up more frequently is conversation is age of offense, age at first offense, age into the program, into the system. And we have seen an increase in that younger age, both in Riverton and Lander, so throughout the county. It is trending throughout the state as well. I've spoken to some people around the state. They're seeing similar things, 9, 10, 11-year-olds receiving citations. In Lander, these ones are for theft. We've had a string of kids taking things from local stores. So Sierra's actually, starting to work with trying to meet some of the business owners and see if there's anything that we can help to do otherwise that would help remedy some of that. So we're not getting 10-year-olds in the office kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Statewide, I think it has changed. A lot of those from conversations I've had was like fights at school have been kind of on an uptick. Big behaviors at school are on a pretty serious uptick.
This is a bit tangential, but I'm curious, what are the theories as to why it's getting younger in age?
A lot of it would have to do with like that instant gratification, like video games, social media, those kinds of, like the TV doesn't even have commercials kind of thing. So it's all instant. We're all getting exactly what we want very instantly. So if that does not go like that, there is a gap in that emotional regulation of, so there, something little turns very big very quickly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're hearing a lot in the school districts, in this people throughout the state are saying very similar things.
Mayor.
If you have a young kid like that at 10 years old and let's just use shoplifting as an example, like you described there, and they could then get a citation and then they come to you, what happens once you see them?
I'll let Sarah.
So currently I have 3 10-year-olds for shoplifting. And when they come to see me, as you can imagine, they're 10. That's enough of like they're scared. Their punishment is definitely there. So we work on community service. In some fashion, it's really hard to do community service with a 10-year-old, but giving back to the business is kind of my main goal. That has been challenging because a lot of trespass notices get filed with those citations. And that is something that I'm trying to work on with the businesses in town, so that there is more of like a restitution point to their citations. But right now it's giving back to the community in some fashion of community service.
Councilmember Larson.
Yes, is there, the type of stuff that they're shoplifting, is it candy? Is it things? What?
It's candy. It's silly putty. It's
Silly
fidget
putty?
spinners. Yeah. Yes.
I would
That
consider
stuff's
what is being,
It's small.
they're currently the kids that we have stolen age appropriate things. We don't have 10-year-olds going and breaking into liquor stores,
Yeah.
Which is obviously good. So yeah, currently everybody that we do have for shoplifting, although not good, did steal age appropriate things.
No condoms or anything like that.
Nothing like.
No, nothing crazy. A couple Snickers.
Yeah.
I had a 10-year-old that put 5 Hershey's candy bars in her pocket to take to school to share with her friends.
Okay.
So
Wow.
it is that small.
Wow. It's really- There's irony there of stealing to share.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting thought process.
Those are misdemeanors. Those kids are at that age that they presented with, how does that work?
When we have them, sir, we write the citation, we fill out a juvenile justice form, and it all goes in an envelope. They're referred right to them, and then it goes through the prosecutor's office, how they handle it. Typically, it's nothing that stays on, let's say, a criminal record, as long as they follow through with these guys on what they're supposed to do.
Is there, in the state of Wyoming, is there a dollar amount that it trips over to felony?
1,000.
Have y'all had that in the youth space yet?
Yes, we do. Less common. The one thing that has changed in that, so there is no longer a statute for unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, and that's what juveniles were being charged under. It is beneficial in terms of if you're stealing cars, that's serious. But that would be most of our felonies do come at the cost of a vehicle. It's not really that hard to get to a felony either. I mean, you steal a phone and a PlayStation and you're there very
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah, a
Um,
bike. Yeah.
Yeah, so we do see it, it's far less common, and I would say that the biggest one that we see unfortunately is vehicle theft.
They're making moves in the legislature to try and change that dollar amount because of that. I mean, if you steal an iPhone, you're over $1,000. So there's talk about moving it higher than 1,000 because it's so easy to get to 1,000 now. But if that'll ever happen, I don't know.
Our biggest citations are always consistently in Fremont County substance, with Lander citation at 59% of those being substance related. Mostly a mix of drugs and alcohol. I would say almost a direct split leaning more towards possession of marijuana is the biggest citation that comes out of Lander currently.
And what other drugs are you seeing besides marijuana?
It's very heavy marijuana. We do see the occasional, and lately we've heard more consistent talk of psilocybin being in the communities. That's been actually a pretty big talk amongst the kids. Our tests, we have certain tests that test for psilocybin. The unfortunate part about those tests is they're $15, and you have to you need to be pretty certain that you're going to get psilocybin in that UA. So a pretty good cause to do so, just because of the cost, and there is a small window on the psilocybin. Marijuana stays in your system a lot longer. Those process pretty quickly. So marijuana is our big one. We do occasionally see a prescription medication, controlled substance citation, or a methamphetamine, but those are not common for us. Our biggest citations are marijuana.
Okay.
Cart marijuana.
Somebody in town selling psilocybin here? Is Bailey still have it on their shelves?
So I did do a tour of vape shops in Fremont County last week.
Yeah.
And I looked at a lot of them that they're selling. They have they advertise them as mushroom chocolates, mushroom gummies, There is no regulation of them. So what they say is what they have in them is very loose. I mean, they can put whatever in them. It's a lot of fillers, a lot of just gunk. And then the active ingredients are lion's mane, and that's about it, other than, chemicals. So we had heard that in the community as well. We had heard that you could get active psilocybin in some of these places. I just didn't see it.
Councilwoman Cox, not to expose, as gently as I can possibly tell you, the answer to your question is yes, and there is an active investigation. I will tell you that.
And what does that do? I can't even say it, so,
So psilocybin is magic mushrooms. It's a hallucinogenic.
oh, okay.
Yeah. And Mayor, it's pretty common now because there's been some research suggested and supported that it helps with anxiety and depression. And so there was a push a while ago to
Yeah, it's
Legalized.
legal in Colorado. So I think that, we don't really see a lot of non-dispensary marijuana either. I mean, we
Right.
see THC carts and then any flower marijuana that we do see, we usually see in the dispensary container. So if you're getting marijuana from Colorado, I'm assuming you're also getting psilocybin from Colorado. And I would assume that that's our big uptick in the juvenile community too, is why just accessibility is everything.
Yeah. And I think you can order it online too. If I'm not mistaken, I think that you can access it via the internet.
Probably.
TikTok probably give you a clue.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised.
So you have anxieties and feed them LSD then, huh?
Well, it's, certainly psilocybin isn't as theoretically as strong as acid, LSD. I mean, that is going to be a little bit more difficult
Man-made.
to, yeah. And so the answer is yes. I mean, I think Hattie and Sierra mentioned that this idea that there's this instant gratification and kids who are constantly attached to a screen don't have good coping skills. And so when they're required to sit still or they're at school or they're not doing well in school, parents struggle to find, and I'm not saying parents give their kids mushrooms, but parents and children struggle to find, the answer for that. And then
Yeah.
the other side of that is kids who have ADHD or who are diagnosed in that capacity are generally prescribed a speed to calm them down. And so there's this offset for parents oftentimes is choosing between mushroom or an amphetamine. And so, but that's because amphetamines calm people down who have ADHD. And so it's a whole cat and mouse type of a game, and it can be very dangerous, especially when they're younger. And marijuana is the same way. A lot of kids we find, and I don't know if you guys are continuing to find, would start use, not because it's fun necessarily, but to cope. Whereas 20 years ago, kids were using to get high and have fun and do stupid stuff, eat too many chips. But now that's not the case. They're using
Trying to self-medicate.
Yeah.
to self-medicate. And so the problem with that is long-term, the addiction cycle will continue and increase. And that's why it's so important that we have these programs in place that deal with, diversion so that criminal records aren't continuing to expand, and that we have some kind of restorative justice in place to make people more aware of what's really going on.
Yeah, I would add to that just the amount of daily use that's submitted to is pretty significant. I would say that we hear a lot more daily marijuana use rather than on the weekends or, social use. It's definitely, I would say the majority, if not almost all of them are daily users by the time they get to us.
Okay. And what's the general age range of kids who are using marijuana? Is it across all of these age ranges that you note here?
14, 13, probably.
Okay.
I would say that's probably when the most we get them in their first initial citation is 13, 14, 15 for marijuana. Start using, 11, 10. We see that pretty frequently. The age of use starts pretty young.
So what's going through my head right now? I mean, I appreciate all that your services are trying to do, but it's not getting at the root cause.
Correct.
What
So kind of where youth services is likely where we're trying to head to is we do have a non-participating state grant that we're working with conjunction with the University of Wyoming in hopes to kind of get some of those funds would help families pay for counseling, help juveniles get involved in activities. So if we have a kid who's, super interested in hockey, would like to get involved in hockey, they're in our office, family can't afford skates, we would be able to use those funds to provide skates and, give kids a different opportunity to try something that gets them involved in other activities. So that's currently what we're working on. That's the money, the programs and stuff are just starting to roll out. Had a meeting on them the other day. So it's kind of a slow process because it is a federal grant. So there's just like some things that we have to change and that kind of stuff. So it is taking longer than I would have liked, but that is in the works that we're trying to get our kids involved in different things in different ways.
Okay. And what kind of mental health support is being, and I realize that's not your lane, but I assume you have probably more familiarity with mental health support in the schools or in the community.
Correct. We rely heavy on the schools because they do have, counseling and those kinds of things can be very expensive. Families don't always have the money to do so. So we rely heavily on the schools and then just local providers around town. If the kids are IHS eligible, then that's always a good resource. Wind River Cares has really good, lots of therapists. So it's the access maybe so that's the bigger barrier than anything.
Okay.
So that's part of that grant will help pay for access to those services as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think those things are awesome, likewise, and creative ways to get at it, but it still is addressing the manifestation of a problem as opposed to avoiding it ever starting in the first place. But
Yeah, it's a good comment. And I think this is a good discussion. And part of is the benefit of Chad, who's never heard or Councilman Cassidy, who's never heard your spiel. And also you have a media person here, which I think is important because one of two reasons. So youth services, when it was established over 40 years ago, began doing what's called a psychosocial assessment of all juveniles who were cited. And that was well advanced of its time. The previous director, really, Chuck Kratz was his name, was a visionary in the sense of how to treat kids as they come through a diversion program. And diversion is really intended to repair the damage and move on and not, cause significant issues for anybody involved. But what he had vision of is that there was more to it in this community and there was a lot more trauma involved and a lot more root cause to behavior. So these psychosocial intakes that youth services does is far beyond what most diversion programs do across the state and quite frankly across the country. So they're collecting information about them from birth to time of the event. And then they make recommendations to the county attorneys based on those interviews and that intake and the citation involved on how the case should proceed. And anytime in Fremont County that a citation is issued to a juvenile, they used to be filed. And Adam and Rochelle can speak to this too if you have questions, but those citations were filed and then that was on your record. And I would say, Rochelle, that would have been, Brian Varn was 15, 18 years, like several years ago. So when he came in, there was the process and it changed statutorily where there was now what was called a single point of entry committee, a spec committee, which these guys are responsible for. The county attorney is responsible for it. This agency provides recommendations. And that single point of entry then alleviated the filing of those citations, which then went on their adult, that would have gone onto their adult permanent record, and they don't do that anymore. And that's really important because Wyoming is a non-participating state with the Juvenile Justice Act. So the Juvenile Justice Act this is a long spiel, but I think it's important. So was in 1974, there was the Justice Act started as a result of a young kid committing a serious crime, I think in Arizona. You can fact check all this. I don't know if it's accurate, but anyway, a long time ago. And Wyoming never participated for various reasons. You know, us and Texas are the two.
Yep.
And so with that, that means that any child initially that's cited is charged as an adult. So with the change in statutes and legislation, they were able to move that out of adult citations through the circuit courts. As a result, though, there's some fundamental systemic problems with juvenile delinquency. And part of that is it's a separate system. So we have a county system and we have a state system. And the state system's limited in what they provide, but they provide a service as well, meaning supervision for. So as they graduate through the system, they would then be referred to what's called the juvenile court. And that juvenile court is through the district. That's the Judge Condors, the judge. And they have it's Title 14, is that right?
Correct.
Right. It's been a minute since I've been in juvenile stuff, but so then they have availability for placement. They can take them into custody. Then the Department of Family Services has more bureaucracy related to those types of interactions with juveniles. So we're pretty lucky in this county to have the diversion program that we have. What we need to, and I don't know what you guys need from us by way of, you know, maybe sending a message and maybe the media can do this, is we have a juvenile treatment court that serves and gets to the root cause of substance use disorder. And it used to be a pretty robust program where we'd average about 25 kids, juveniles, a month in there, and they have none. They have zero right now. And based on these citations, and that the result of that is, one, there was a change in the procedure of how filings happened for juvenile treatment court. They used to be able to go through the circuit court on what they called a delayed sentencing bond. They have taken that away, which is good. They should have. There's some issues with that. So now those kids get referred to the juvenile court with the recommendation that they participate in a juvenile treatment court, which by design is supposed to get to the root cause. It provides mental health assessment and access. They have access to substance use disorder treatment, as well as co-occurring treatment. And they have access to judiciary review, which if you follow research or anything that's quality or best practices, you know that those relationships and that non-adversarial approach to juvenile justice is what works. And it reduces recidivism. And we don't want kids to reoffend. And we certainly don't want them to filter into the adult system, because once they're in the adult system, the likelihood of them getting out of the system is really complicated and hard, especially if they start use at a young age. So anytime you're looking at a 12, 13, 14-year-old, changes the brain, they're using it daily rate versus on the weekends with their buddies. And it's an extensive amount of work that goes into it. And we as policymakers up here need to be putting some pressure on the folks that are making decisions and taking those resources away from our juveniles. And that would be, I would suggest that we talk to the county attorney. I would suggest that we talk to our county commissioners and really start saying, listen, we don't have the luxury of taking those services away. It's evident by what we're being shown here. So, yeah. Yes. They don't have any participants right now. So the state won't fund the program if they don't have participants.
On the drug use, do you find that a lot of that's procured at home, or is it trafficked here? Do you have any idea?
there's not going to, so in the intake, we're usually sitting with juvenile and family member, mom, dad, responsible guardian. There's usually not an admittance that, yeah, this is, what do you mean? What do you mean, where did I get? I just go into across the hall or whatever. You know, when you do enough intakes, you can get a feel on it. And I would say that we're probably about split, half and half. I would say maybe as they get a little bit older, maybe more so like our 17-year-olds pushing towards that 18th birthday, mom or dad or whoever is, will they have anxiety? Will they have this? And they've kind of been able to navigate mom and dad into, thinking that, it's something that it's not. And I think that the important part of that is that we're not talking about the same kind of marijuana that their parents used.
Right.
We're not talking, 3 to 6% THC. We're talking and we see carts, that's basically what we see. We don't really even see flower anymore. I mean, we're talking 85 to 96%. So it's, that the game has changed a lot. And I just think there probably maybe a lack of information about that, how different it really is and what that really, I mean, you can't drink until you're 21 for a reason. And any state that is legal, it's 21 and there's a reason for that. It should be even closer to 25 just based off of your brain and
Right.
all of that,
Right.
all those good things. So I think, maybe there's a lack of information about what our kids are actually using and what it, is really affecting them. And the kids have admitted to the stuff that you can buy at the vape shops, that like the THCA, the HHC, there's Delta 10, Delta 8, there's so many different components to it that makes them feel weirder is how they'll describe it. More anxious, more out of control kind of a thing. It's, it's all chemically based. So I think there's just a gap of like truly understanding what they're digesting and consuming.
Is there a gender split?
Give me just 1 second. Right now, you're female.
Off the top of my head, I was gonna say I have a lot of female marijuana users. A lot of that, they point towards the anxiety. I have 2 girls right now that it's stomach issues. I see a lot of my males with the substance use leaning a little more towards the alcohol. But it it comes and goes in waves. So it's hard to state, but to the point of access for alcohol, I do think it's important to note on the side of alcohol, I have a lot of kids telling me they have buyers. They never tell me the buyer's name, but there's always talk of a buyer. Someone called their buyer, someone called their buyer. I don't know what that means, but it's obviously an adult willing to buy for them. And, when we're talking adults, it could be freshly 21 or it could be mom, dad, aunts, uncles. We don't know. But all of my kids know how to get alcohol and marijuana.
That conversation with a constituent last week that's probably 74 or 75 years old, and he explained the exact same circumstance that happened when he was growing up here.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's any.
No, that game hasn't changed. I think the one good thing is that Lander Police Department has contacted us and, basically says if there is an adult person drinking with a juvenile, they would like them also charged. And I mean, that's completely appropriate. And, I think that, we hear it all the time. Well, so-and-so, and it's, I think sending a harsh message to adults that that's going to be taken seriously is really important. if there's no skin in the game on them, if they get away with it every time, that, and they make $15 off of some kids, I don't think that that's appropriate. There needs to be a pretty harsh stance on if you're drinking with a juvenile, if you've provided that, then you will be charged for that.
I think often I infer, nobody says their buyer's name, but I infer that it's older siblings quite often, siblings that just barely turned 21 or whatever.
I'm on the edge of my seat to share with you like a kind of a military perspective to this, and I don't know if this ever comes up in your conversations, right? I retired from the Marine Corps after 20 years of service and spent my entire career dealing with young 18-year-old guys who drank excessively, even though they were underage. There's a lot of, there's drug use in the Marine Corps, or across the armed forces in general, but the Marine Corps specifically has a zero tolerance policy, right? So if you want to join the Marine Corps, you have to admit to any substance abuse, or use. And if you admit to that, there's a very high likelihood that you're not going to be allowed to join. There was a time in the surge in the wartime where those standards were dropped because there was a need at the national level, but those have returned, So if you want to join currently and you admit to that, there's a very high likelihood you're not going to be able to serve your country at all forever. And then if you join the Marine Corps and you are in an installation anywhere, there's going to be access to all this stuff, just like there's in Lander. And if you, do your analysis, which we all did, every month, and you get caught, you're going to get removed from the military, and that's going to follow you everywhere. If you wanted to work for Lander Police Department and you had that in your military record, you're not going to get a job. If you want to be a paramedic, you want to be a firefighter, you want to do some things in life, you're not going to get that opportunity. So I was, like I said, I was on the edge of my seat to share that with you all because I saw it frequently in my Marine Corps career, and I saw the tragedy that happened when these Marines, these young guys who were probably in a very good environment for their age, as far as structure, mentorship, fitness, focus, education, and because of a decision, they're stamped for the rest of their life with a discharge that perhaps isn't honorable, right?
Yeah.
And what really hurts me and makes me feel upset about this is that, I've got a 10-year-old, a 13-year-old, and 16-year-old boys, they're at middle school, they're at elementary school, and you're telling me that there's kids at those schools who have access to and abusing drugs and alcohol and all this kind of stuff. And I know from my home, it's incredibly difficult to explain to my kids what happens beyond the tip of their nose, like tomorrow, the next day, and so forth. And to explain to them to think into the future and try to anticipate. Their brains aren't able to do that, But to close the door, any door in life forever, to me is tragic. And I asked about the gender because, being in the Marine Corps and predominantly surrounded by males, for a young American man who might be 18, 19 years old and doesn't want to know what he wants to do with his life, I think the military is a great opportunity. And for him to step into the recruiter and then get shown the door, to me is tragic. I think we all need that young man to sacrifice for our nation in whatever capacity that requires. I think our nation benefits from that. And to hear that these decisions would result in him being shown the door or her being shown the door just breaks my heart, So whatever I can do, we can do, all of us in the room can do to, we're not going to turn the ship around, but if we can move it a couple of degrees, I would be willing to try to help. Thanks.
I would add to that too, that it's also important to remember with these young youth that a lot of it is very cyclical. They have it in their homes, their mothers, their fathers, grandpas, grandmas, right? Everyone around them, that's their way of life. That's how they're taught to live. So I do very much agree with you that shutting the door on them is not beneficial, and that's the purpose of our diversion program. Because it comes from a lot more than just making a stupid choice as a kid.
Right. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I also want to add too, this was kind of the first time we've had the opportunity to really talk with our work session people. And for me, this process feels good to ask questions and chew on some things. So I do appreciate whoever scheduled this like this. But thank you.
Yeah, it's good to do. Thank you. Any other questions or points of discussion? I, yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm like, wait, what? What is happening?
I do have, I'm sorry, one more thing. All my kids play hockey. Everything is free in Fremont County. All their skates, everything is free. The thing that's not free is travel. They have to travel everywhere across the state. So there's an immense cost to it. But they can play in Riverton. They can practice in Riverton. And so just maybe something to look at. You brought up hockey and I was like, hey, we play that. So
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for being
Thank you
here
all.
and especially thanks for the work you're doing.
Thank you, guys. Have a good Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thanks.
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yep. And with that, for us as well, I hope all of y'all have a wonderful Thanksgiving and we'll see you back in December.